Hi again from Seahawks training camp in Renton. Gregg and Dave Boling in the News Tribune covering day 10 of Seahawks training camp. The big news today was Jimmy Graham is finally back, and now the Seahawks are pupless. Both their physically unable to perform list guys are now off. Thomas Rawls came back yesterday to practice after his broken ankle in December. Jimmy Graham came back to practice today, following his patellar tendon surgery for his knee in early December. Dave, to me, it was not so much what he did on the field, which he caught passes without shoulder pads and then stayed out of team drills as they ease his way back in. But afterwards, he sounded very humbled, very team-oriented. He went out of the way to thank Richard Sherman for ducking his head into Seahawks training room every day during his grueling rehab. He said he was immobilized, his knee was, for 11 to 12 weeks, and that he had to learn how to walk again, and that humbled him alone. What'd you notice about Graham today?
Physically, he's much leaner. He said he lost 15 pounds. You know, that's a pretty significant amount. He can stand to be a little quicker, and that will only enhance his ability to run routes. He said he was running, post patterns at 275 pounds. Well, maybe that contributes to your knee giving out. I'm not sure. It can help, and it certainly should help aid his recovery and hasten it. I think, as you said, the other thing is, it sounded to me a lot more as if he has bought in. You got that sign, "I'm in," every time you walk out that locker room. I think he's hitting that, and it feels more like he is at home. He is in with this program. It sounds as if he understands what it takes and what it is expected of these guys if they want to be a Seahawk.
And that might be Pete Carroll's biggest accomplishment here in 6 years.
And Russell Wilson too, really,
Right. The buy-in factor, I mean, all in's a saying that they all say, but it really does translate on the field when a guy, a $40 million tight end, who was used to leading the NFL in catches until last season, and now instead of getting 90-some catches and 120-some targets a year, he gets 60, and he comes back sounding as happy as he ever was. He said stepping on the field today felt better than it ever has at any time in his football life. You mentioned the 275 pounds. He said at 275 run and go routes is probably not a good idea. The Seahawks wanted him to bulk up to 275-ish because this time last year, you might remember, the question was, can he run block? And he'd have to run block in the Seahawks offense.
Maybe they've given up on that. That's why they hired a rookie to come in and maybe do some run blocking.
Nick Vanette. The other injury news today, Doug Baldwin came back. He's been out a week with an Achilles bruise-like injury, Pete Carroll described it as. He did some catching before taking off his shoulder pads and watching the rest of team drills. Two injury developments during practice. Second-round pick Jerron Reed looked like he got stepped on by an offensive lineman during a pass rush drill. Went down, stayed down. Trainer came over, and eventually a motorized cart took him off. Chris Richard, the defensive coordinator, said after practice he wasn't sure what the injury was and how serious it was. But, Dave, it didn't look like a garden-variety ankle twist.
It didn't look good, and even if it is an ankle, that could be a couple of weeks at an important time. I thought Jerron Reed was really one of the stories of camp. He looked so strong and so comfortable with such great get-off and good penetration, and was actually, getting into the gaps, which at Alabama he was asked to be a two-gap run stopper. He was doing it all and showing his strength and savvy. If he's sidelined for a little bit, I thought he was going to be a guy jumps into the starting position and has an impact immediately. This could certainly put that behind schedule.
He was starting because Jordan Hill has been out with an unspecified injury for almost a week himself.
Groin, I believe, now.
A groin injury, thank you. It was a groin injury. I try not to get too involved in the groins. The other injury that happened today, during practice, Jamarcus Webb, who's been the starting right tackle all camp, he limped off and then came back to watch the rest of practice. What'd you see in that?
I don't think that's anything as serious, but it's hard to tell on big guys. Jamarcus has his feet. They're like size 22 or something or other. The chances are he's going to get stepped on at some point. And I think what this does, too, is opens up a little more time for Bradley Sowell, who has been a little bit of a surprise in my mind. And Coach Carroll saying that he's challenging at either tackle position. So I think that's a pretty interesting thing and important as they go forward to have competition all the way across the board there.
We finally saw Jahri Evans on the first team, and he was at right guard, the place he was for 10 years and 6 Pro Bowls and 4 All-Pro selections as a New Orleans Saint until he signed with the Seahawks last weekend. But Dave, you thought the reason he was at first-team right guard was that the Seahawks threw out Jermaine Ifedi, finally did that for being ornery after plays.
I think so, and I will say, however he got there, Jahri Evans looked better at the right side. He looked more comfortable, and I think that is to be expected. I thought he looked rusty the first day or two, and it seems to be a good idea. Give him a shot there, break in, kind of learn this system, the way they practice, and the things they ask of their guards. I thought he looked much better today on the hoof.
I know he did get a veteran minimum contract. He's 34 years old. He's been on the third team this week.
33 this
33,
month.
Thank you. But I can't see the Seahawks signing a four-time All-Pro and not putting him on this line, which is not exactly the most outstanding line in the league.
I think he's going to really have to earn it, and I think if there's snaps to be had, and if it's a close race, they might go to the young guy because there's somebody that's going to have a future with him. I think he's got a lot to prove, and I don't think we can just plug him in yet, because you know how offensive linemen, kind of like running backs, once they hit that threshold where they can't get it done, then it gets really tough for him. And I'm not saying that yet. He has much to prove this camp.
So for now, it's still Mark Glowinski and Jermaine Ifedi at the two guard spots.